Welcome back to Mini Movies. Today I will explain a sports comedy film from 2002 titled Like Mike. A teen named Calvin Cambridge lives in an orphanage with his two best friends, Murph and Reg. They all love playing basketball in the orphanage's front yard. One morning, a group of bullies led by Ox stop them in the middle of a game. Ox challenges Calvin to a match for his basketball jersey. While Calvin's friends tell him to ignore the thug, the ambitious kid wants to take on the challenge, as his favorite basketball players do. The match begins, and Ox wins easily, because he is much taller than Calvin. As promised, he takes Calvin's jersey and rips it up to annoy him. Stan Biddleman, the director of the orphanage, frequently forces the children to sell candy, to raise funds for their own welfare. That night, they go to a Los Angeles Knights home game and sell candy outside of the arena. When the game is over, Calvin sees Knights coach Wagger getting into a car to leave. He walks up to the man and offers him some candy. When the coach learns that they are for a charity, he gives Calvin a $20 bill. Calvin, however, declines to accept it, since he is unsure of whether the funds they raise actually benefit charities. Wagger likes how honest the kid is, so he gives him 4 tickets to the next basketball game. Calvin is so happy that he runs to tell Murph about the tickets. The next day, a group of couples comes to the orphanage looking for a child to adopt. At first, Calvin is hopeful, but he soon realizes that the parents only want younger children. Later, they are given a box of donated clothes from a thrift store. Calvin finds a pair of shoes and puts them on. When he inquires about the shoes with the nun, she informs him that they belong to a well-known basketball player. Calvin checks and discovers that the shoe bears the initials of Michael B. Jordan. Ox gets jealous of Calvin's shoes and takes them away. He ties the shoelaces together and throws the shoes in the air. But to Calvin's disappointment, the shoes hang on the power cable. When the storm hits at night, when everyone else is sleeping, Calvin wakes up Murph and Reg to get the shoes off the cable. They go outside in the heavy rain. Calvin climbs a tree near the cable and reaches for the shoes. Suddenly, lightning strikes right at them, knocking Calvin and the shoes to the ground. Luckily, Calvin isn't seriously hurt. He notices that the shoes have a strange force, but doesn't think much of it. The next day, the kids go back to the arena to sell more candy. Calvin, Murph and Reg receive the 4 tickets that the coach had promised, which infuriates Ox and his group of friends. The bullies then threaten to inform Biddleman that they had obtained the tickets using charity funds. In order to prevent him from causing trouble, Calvin gives Ox one of the tickets, and the 4 of them watch the game between the Knights and the Minnesota Timberwolves. During halftime, the team's star player Tracy Reynolds and one of the coaches take part in a show meant to bring more people to the arena. One person from the crowd will get to go one-on-one with Tracy, and to everyone's surprise, Calvin's ticket number is chosen. When Ox finds out, he tries to take the ticket away from Calvin. Calvin tricks him in some way, and runs up front with his ticket. Tracy doesn't care much about the face-off because Calvin is just a kid. He lets Calvin win the first round to get the crowd interested, but then he has to stop the kid, or he'll look bad in front of everyone. Tracy does everything he can to stop Calvin from making a slam dunk, but he fails. The crowd is shocked and cheers, making the star player look bad. The next day, Knights coaches go to see Biddleman and ask him to just let Calvin play for them for a day. Initially, the director is reluctant, but he agrees when he is offered money. Calvin's friends are very happy for him, but Ox is furious because Calvin couldn't even beat Ox before he got the shoes. The children figured out that the shoes must be magic. They decide to keep it a secret, so that no one can take them away, but Ox overhears them talking. The next day, Calvin goes into the Knights' changing room, which annoys Tracy a lot. Tracy's teammates warn him to brace himself, as the youngster is coming for his throne. Calvin is given a Knights jersey and a new pair of shoes that he has to wear. He asks the coach if he can wear his old shoes, but the coach doesn't care about the clothes. Calvin's presence is just a publicity stunt, so it doesn't matter how he plays. Since Calvin's last match, his popularity has grown by leaps and bounds, which has led to a bigger crowd in the arena. During the first half of the game, he doesn't get to play. When their team is about to lose, he asks the coach to let him play. Even though the coach isn't sure, he lets Calvin play, even though he isn't wearing his lucky shoes. To everyone's annoyance, Calvin calls a timeout, because he is too nervous and then dashes to the locker room to put on his old shoes. Upon his return, he is much more assured, and the young man effectively assists his team in catching up to the points of the opposition and winning. After the game, he signs a contract to play with the team for the rest of the tournament. When Biddleman comes to the orphanage to talk to him, he is getting ready to leave for the tournament. The man wants to stay Calvin's guardian, because it makes him money. He warns Calvin to be careful of people who want to adopt him now, because they only want his money. On the flight, Tracy and Calvin are put in the same room by the coach. Calvin is thrilled to be sharing a room with his hero, but Tracy isn't as happy about it. They have a curfew at night, which Tracy intends to violate by getting ready for a date, showing Calvin how to order room service, and leaving. The kid gets to eat wherever he wants, and he takes full advantage of this. When Calvin comes back with his date, the room is a mess and half-eaten food is all over the place. He had planned to spend the night with his date, but they end up taking care of Calvin, who is sick. Even though the boys go to sleep late at night, Tracy has a hard time falling asleep because Calvin snores. The following day, they have a crucial game, but Tracy is exhausted. When Calvin accidentally tells the coach that they stayed up late, the coach tells Tracy that he will be suspended if he misses curfew again. Beginning that day, Calvin engages the Knights in a number of games, and aids them in winning each one. When the kid plays, his opponents don't know what to expect, and are surprised by how good he is. He gets to go to a lot of press conferences and makes a lot of money. With the money, he buys gifts for everyone in the orphanage. He also wins the NBA Slam Dunk contest, and becomes the most talented rising basketball star. One night, Calvin is telling Murph about his new life, and how much fun he has had playing in the NBA. A jealous ox overhears them and attacks Calvin, trying to take his shoes. The fight stops when Biddleman steps in, and tells the ox to stop hitting his friends. Since he makes so much money off Calvin, he doesn't want him to get hurt. The next time the team is at a hotel, Tracy goes to the pharmacy to buy sleeping pills, and allergy medicine to make sure he gets a good night's sleep before the next day's match. Calvin goes with him, which annoys Tracy. When the kid asks about Trace's parents, he finds out that Tracy doesn't talk to his father. This is strange to Calvin, who would do anything to have good parents. Tracy says he doesn't even want to talk about his family and keeps driving. When the cashier gives him the pills, he doesn't pay attention and takes a sleeping pill instead of an allergy pill. As a result, the man falls asleep before he could even start the car, and get back to the hotel. Calvin knows that Tracy will be fired if he misses the curfew, so he drives the car back to the hotel, hitting a few things along the way. The next day, Calvin gets suspended for going on a joyride. Tracy feels bad that the kid got in trouble because of his mistake. Later that night, when they're flying back, Tracy thanks Calvin for putting himself in danger to save him. After spending some time with the child, Tracy has grown to like him. When Calvin goes back to the orphanage, several people want to adopt him. Murph gets jealous because he wished the adults to want him too. Since Biddleman doesn't want Calvin to get adopted, he chooses the worst parents and sets up a meeting with them. Calvin doesn't get along with any of the adults he meets, so he decides to stay at the orphanage. That weekend, he goes to Trace's house without telling him. The kid is amazed by how big the player's mansion is. When Tracy asks Calvin why he's there, Calvin tells him all about how Murph is upset that he didn't get good parents, and how he has a geometry test the next day. To figure out how to help the kid, Tracy requests that he invite Murph over, and while they wait, he teaches him geometry in a fun way to prevent him from becoming bored. In the middle of it, they start throwing paint at each other for fun. Murph joins them a while later and forgets about his fight with Calvin. The next day, Calvin and his friends are discussing how difficult it is to find good parents. When Calvin tells him about Tracy and his father's relationship, they suggest he help them reconcile. The next day, Calvin meets with Trace's father and brings him to Trace's house. The player is furious at Calvin for invading his privacy, and they have a massive argument about the matter. The Knights play their biggest rivals, the Toronto Raptors, but Calvin and Tracy still haven't made up. As a result, the Knights lose the game, and the coach yells at the team for doing poorly in such a big game. Now, they only have one more game, which will decide whether or not they make the playoffs. The following day, a couple visits the orphanage to inquire about adopting Calvin. He has had several unsuccessful meetings, so he is skeptical, but Biddleman begs him to give them a chance. He makes Calvin put on new shoes, and tells him that if he looks presentable, they will want to adopt him even more. Before he leaves, Calvin gives Murph his lucky shoes, and tells him to keep them safe with his life. Murph puts on the shoes and tries to play like Calvin, but he can't. He decides they don't fit and keeps talking to a picture of his mom. Ox and his friends threaten him to tell them about the shoes. When he refuses, they take him to Biddleman, who burns the only picture of his mother he has. With no way out, Murph tells them where the shoes are. After that, Biddleman meets with his friends and bets $100,000 against the Knights in the next game. Since he has hidden Calvin's lucky shoes, he is sure that Calvin will do poorly in the game. Calvin has dinner with his potential parents, but he doesn't seem to fit in. Tracy meets his father in the interim, and makes peace with him. He really misses Calvin and talks to him about it. He wants to adopt the child before their next match, but he doesn't tell him that. After meeting the couple he went to see yesterday, Murph tells Calvin about the shoes 20 minutes before the game. Calvin rushes back to the orphanage to retrieve them. The kids help him tie up Biddleman and ask him where the shoes are. Ox goes against the team and attempted to help him, but he changes his mind after Biddleman insults him. He brings out shoes from the safe and gives them back to Calvin. Everyone then drives back to the arena on scooters, while Biddleman manages to free himself, and make a call to his associate to prevent Calvin from showing up for the match. The men try to stop him, but the kids distract them long enough for Calvin to get into the arena. As a last resort, Biddleman stands in front of Calvin to stop him from going any further, but a kid hits him with his scooter, and Calvin finally makes it to the game. When he gets there, his team is far behind the other team's score. But when he starts playing, they quickly catch up, but he gets tackled in the middle of a game and his shoes get ruined. Calvin is nervous and thinks his magic lies in his shoes, so he can't score without them. Tracy reassures him that the shoes only gave him confidence, and that his real talent is within himself. Eventually, Calvin keeps playing and helps his team win. Calvin doesn't want to renew his contract, so he can enjoy the rest of his childhood. He goes back to the orphanage, which is very different now that Biddleman has left. Tracy tells Calvin that he wants to adopt a child, and starts asking him if he desires to be his son. Calvin says yes, but only if he can bring Murph with him. Their friend Reg is also taken in by a different family. In the end, both Calvin and Murph play fight with Tracy in their new room. That's all from the video. If you liked this video, you will also like the video appearing on screen. Click on it to watch. We upload new movies daily. Make sure to subscribe, so you don't miss any video. If you liked the movie, consider sharing it with your friends. Show that you care about them. Thanks for watching.